Today we're reading Acts 28, verses 1 through 10. And when they were escaped, then they knew that the island was called Melita. And the barbarous people showed us no little kindness, for they kindled a fire and received us every one, because of the present rain, and because of the cold. And when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on the fire, there came a viper out of the heat, and fastened on his hand. And when the barbarians saw the venomous beast hanging on his hand, they said among themselves, No doubt this man is a murderer, whom though he has escaped the sea, yet vengeance suffereth not to live. And he shook off the beast into the fire, and felt no harm. Howbeit they looked when he should have swollen or fallen down dead suddenly. But after they had looked a great while and saw no harm come to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. In the same quarters were possessions of the chief man of the island, whose name was Publius, who received us and lodged us 3 days courteously. And it came to pass that the father of Publius lay sick of a fever and of a body flux, to whom Paul entered in and prayed, and laid his hands on him, and healed him. So when this was done, others also which had diseases in the island came and were healed, who also honored us with many honors. And when we departed, they laded us with such things as were necessary. Now that everyone has made it safely to the shore, Paul and the others begin to learn more about the island that they're on. They find out that it's called Melita, which is now called Malta. Luke refers to the locals in verse 2 as barbarous. That simply means that they spoke a language that none of those on the ship understood. Romans would sometimes refer to non-Greek speakers as barbarians. But somehow they're able to communicate, and the locals are kind to the castaways. They even started a fire for them to help them dry out and warm up. And as they're sitting around the fire, Paul, busy as always, put some sticks on the fire that he had helped gather. When he did this, a snake came out and fastened onto his hand. The locals knew the snake was very poisonous, and they assumed that that meant that Paul must be a bad person who was being punished by the gods. But when Paul remained unharmed by it, they assumed instead that he must be a god. This certainly would cause them to treat Paul's group of travelers with reverence and care. In fact, the leader of that area brought them in and gave them a place to stay for 3 days. God was using all of this as a chance to show people his power. While there, Paul was able to heal the leader's father. This, of course, led to others coming to Paul for healing. Can you imagine what the centurion must have been thinking by now? He had already seen Paul make statements that later came true. He also witnessed the snake bite him without harm. And now, Paul's healing people of various ailments. Because of Paul, or more specifically, because of God's blessings on Paul, the entire group benefited. Luke tells us that when they finally left, the locals gave them gifts for their journey. Do we serve a mighty God or what? Not only can he bring us through the storm, but he can shower us with blessings in even the most unusual places and in the most unusual ways. Let us take time today to thank him for his many blessings.